Welcome to Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and a dash of hope collide nightly like a Trevor Story strikeout. We cover every loss, every meltdown, and yes, even the rare win, with brutally honest takes and zero front office fluff. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com or risk being left out in the cold like a home game in April. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I'm your host, Jim Delfino. I am accompanied by Nick Face, and I am also joined today by Nick Diamond. Gentlemen, how are you today?
I'm doing great, but Jim, you need to get with the program here. Your name's not Nick. It's Nick squared and Jim.
Nick Diamond, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you guys great. It's great to be back. Great to be talking about the Red Sox again here. Coming off a disappointing series, but I'm happy to be talking about Sox again. So I'm happy to be with you guys.
Awesome. I wanted to start today's show off. We had it in our chat. There was some kerfuffle involving potentially Jared Carrabis and Jarren Duran. I'd like to get your reactions, both of you, on that. Nick Face, since you were the one that put it on.
Yeah, that was wild this morning. I was getting ready to go to work and everything, and then lo and behold, we see the tweet from Carrabis, and now it's no longer there. I don't know what transpired between now and earlier today, but I'll read what Carrabis wrote. It came from a ex-follower by the name of John Tollender, who also deleted his statement. And this was in regards to Duran. He said, "Sorry to hear that. I feel like there hasn't been too many that were bigger supporters of Duran than you from the very beginning when no one wanted him here." Carrabis goes, "And then there's so much more in that regard to people that people don't even know about. Overextended myself so many times on a personal level to him, and the thank you was pretty much a F you in the end. Good luck to him if that's how you treat people who go out of their way for you." That was the interaction that was going back and forth. Maybe Carrabis and Duran came to some kumbaya or something like that between now and earlier this morning, but fireworks were going off earlier today regarding that statement.
Nick Diamond, what's your reaction?
So I'm not super tapped in with Jared Carrabis, at least in the last 3 or 4 years. I haven't listened to any of his stuff. I'm not interested in listening to the 3-hour podcast that talk about the Red Sox for 10 minutes. But I did see a Jared tweet later on saying, "You will never guess who's going to be on the podcast coming up." So maybe they did come to some sort of agreement, some sort of they made up or something. So maybe it is Jared Duran on the podcast for his podcast coming up. But besides that, I really have no thoughts. People can think whatever they want about Jared Duran. I know he had a little bit of blow up with the umpires in yesterday's game. As long as he performs, I don't care what he does off the field. But he's not performing right now, so that's his biggest issue.
Well, I think that's the major problem here on the Duran part is that he's saying so much, I guess, to the media right now and looking like that de facto leader. Well, to me, a leader is somebody who is playing well, a guy that is accountable, a guy that doesn't make mistake after mistake after mistake that cost you games. Duran has been a catalyst for this season being so mediocre. He's not hit well. He's fielded atrocious, and they're getting into more mistakes on the bases now with him. It's been a complete 180 of Duran from last season to now. And I said last night when we were all together, Thayer, Jim, and I'm all done with Jarren Duran in left field. I'm done. The experiment for me is over. They're going to put him out there still. I think it's a terrible move. I don't feel confident. I don't feel comfortable with him out there. And I think Duran's days are numbered here as a Red Sox, in all fairness.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I really do think that there's a possibility that they look to move him. I mean, look, he's been a controversial guy ever since he came into the league. We're never going to forget the infamous, ball over his head, which he didn't run down and try to get. Obviously, he tried to atone for it by having a really strong 23. And Nick Face, you and I were talking about that the other day, that, if it wasn't for Adam Duvall's injury, he probably doesn't get that opportunity to be an everyday center fielder and then move to left. But, with that being said, what do you guys think a Jaron Duran trade would look like if they decided to go that route? I think it would be in the name for getting Roman Anthony, Cedane Rafaela, and obviously Willie Abreu in that lineup every day. What do you think would be a possible trade scenario?
Personally, I think there's a good chance that he's gone. I think there's a better chance that he's on a different team August 1st than he is on the Red Sox. It's going to come down to a team that needs a center fielder or an outfielder. And there's two NL East teams that I really think are a big fit for him, and it's the Phillies and the Mets. The Mets need a center fielder. The Phillies need a corner outfielder. I don't think we're going to get more than like a Mick Abel from the Phillies. The Mets, I'd love to get like a Luis Acuna to play second base, but I don't think that's realistic. I think it's to be less than that. So I think he lost a lot of value. We should have traded him last year when he's coming off an 8.7 WAR season. We all knew he wasn't going to replicate that. I didn't think he'd be this bad, but I knew he wasn't going to replicate last year. So maybe a Mick Abel would be like best case scenario, young like 7 starter on the Phillies who would probably be our 3 or 4 starter. But that's probably the top of the line we're going to get back for Jaron Duran. He's a speed first guy. His skill set's going to age poorly. He's going to he's entering his prime already. He'll be out of his prime by 30, 31, which is in a year or two. So he's got 1 or 2 more good seasons left, and that's really it. I don't think we're going to get much from him.
Yeah, I'm worried about his legs breaking down. Obviously with speed first guys, if they lose their ability to, steal bases, turn singles into doubles into triples, whatever it may be, when there's injuries like that, that's his whole game. Defense isn't really his whole game, and obviously, his home run production is down. His all his intangibles are down this year. So I agree with you, Nick. They should have moved him this offseason. You would have gotten a bigger return package than you will obviously at this trade deadline. But I think it's just a matter of they've got too many guys for not enough spots. And if they want to go young, I know Duran's not making a hell of a lot of money, but if they want to go young and they want to get, Rafaela and Anthony and Abreu in that lineup and in the outfield, day in and day out, there's just not going to be that room. Do you think that with the pitching would be the way to go, obviously, with a trade? Or do you think getting another infielder is the right answer?
I know Nick had his hand up. Why don't you go first, Nick, and then I'll come back with my take, which I think you guys will agree.
Thinking it through here, I don't know if you remember when Jaron Duran and the Red Sox went to arbitration. They originally didn't agree on a deal, and they went to arbitration. And then,
great point.
I think the day before or the couple days before the hearing, they came to a deal on a 2-year deal. So he is signed for next year. Do you think that will hurt them trading him, or do you think that'll help them trading him now that he's under contract and the other team knows what they're going to pay him next year?
I like your question, and I'm actually going to tell the both of you right now that I think the biggest mystery right now in Major League Baseball with Jaron Duran is what his value is. I think that his value has dipped so much, we can't be astronomical with our asks here on what we're going to get for something of Jaron Duran's caliber in return. I've heard Padres as a rumor. I've heard the Phillies as a rumor. I think the rest of Major League Baseball is concerned regarding Duran's skill set on breakdown. his wheels, his legs are the caveat to his game. If those go, he's done. He's done. He can pack it in. There's no long-term deal for there. And I do think the Red Sox do not want Duran here long-term. And that is why you have not seen a contract. And I think that that's a big concern here for the future of where Duran will head. I don't think he's going to get much, guys. Realistically, maybe a prospect or two, but I'm not a major league caliber return for Duran. That's going to push it for me. I don't see it. Unfortunately, you may be stuck here in the mud with Duran.
I think the only way you get a above average return for a Duran is if you take on money. And I'm not quite sure what team has an opportunity that they want to acquire Duran and at the same time get rid of a contract that is either an albatross or somebody that doesn't fit into their team anymore. I mean, if you look at possibility of San Diego, right? And we've heard the rumors of them being interested in Duran. What is it? What does that look like? I mean, would they move a Dylan Cease in that situation? I mean, if they're looking to compete and win a division and get into the playoffs, why would they want to trade a Dylan Cease? I know he's going to be a free agent, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do that, especially if he might have a qualifying offer. I don't know if he's open to, if he can get a qualifying offer attached. I don't know if he's already had that. But again, the idea here is it doesn't make a lot of sense for a team. So what team would be giving up anything of value for a Duran? That's I think where the starting point is, and where you got to say, you're going to just give them away for nothing.
It's going to have to be a package deal. You're going to have to throw money in. And we all know how the Red Sox are with throwing money in and stuff like that. It ain't going to happen. I mean, look what we just did with Zach Penrod, who went to the Dodgers. Yeah. I've said it 3 shows in a row, but it's more cash in the pocket for John Henry so he can buy yacht number 20 for Mrs. Linda Pizzuto.
Nick Diamond, I want to get your take on the Rafael Devers trade. I know we've had it ad nauseum, but I haven't heard from you on that. I'd like to get your opinion on are you happy? Are you upset about it? And the return. If you could give me a little synopsis of everything that you know and have heard and what your thoughts are.
Well, first off, I think the return was awful. Whether I like the trade or not, I really don't know yet. I'm fine with them trading Rafael Devers if they identify him as the problem and they think the team's better off without him. I'm fine with offloading the money and starting new, but I don't think they're going to reinvest that money. So that's why I have an issue with the trade. We're just going to trade our best player, and then we're going to have this massive hole in our 2 and 3 hole in the middle of the order. And if you look at the free agency next year, it's Kyle Tucker, and that just ruins the outfield situation again. So if they identified him as the problem, I get why they did it. I wish they got a better return, but you can't trade your best hitter in the middle of a season right after sweeping the Yankees and not expect some backlash. He might have been the issue. He probably was the issue, but I just don't like the timing of it and how they did it. But we'll see what happens. I'm not going to sit here and cry and scream over them trading Rafael Devers. They saved $250 million, but they lost their best player.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The other part of it, and you brought up a guy like Kyle Tucker, he's going to cost you more than Rafael Devers. So right then and there, it doesn't seem like a match that John Henry or ownership is going to want to go out and spend that kind of money. Because why would you want to spend more? The other thing is he's left-handed, right? So, I mean, it just adds more fuel to the left-handed fire that we already have. And you didn't spend this last offseason prying some of your guys away from the major league roster. There was a lot of thought that, Abreu might get traded, or Yoshida or somebody. And that just didn't come to fruition. My question is that Hicks and Harrison, do you think they're going to contribute at the major league level, and are they going to be successful here in Boston?
I think Hicks will be fine in the bullpen if he's a bullpen piece only. He's excelled in the bullpen before. With the Cardinals, he's thrown over 100 plus. I think he'll be fine as like a 7th, 8th inning guy. As a starter, I don't want to see that experiment anymore. If he starts, the Red Sox are in a bad position. Kyle Harrison, I don't know how the trade went down, but I'd rather have had like a Hayden Birdsong or one of their other young pitching prospects up there. I know Harrison's no longer a prospect. He's been in the majors for a few years, but he hasn't pitched very much. So if it was up to me, I would have picked another one. I don't know if the Giants gave him a choice of a pitcher they could pick. I think Harrison has one good pitch with the fastball. In the major leagues, if you're good hitter, you're good fastball. So we'll see how he is. I don't trust Bailey very much to teach him a very good breaking ball. And if he does, he's going to tell him to only throw breaking balls. He'll sit there with 35-40% breaking ball percentage, and it's not how it works in the major leagues. You don't get guys out that way. So I think Jordan Hicks will be fine. They're paying him a lot of money to be a 7th, 8th inning guy. If they trade Chapman going into that closer role, we'll see. But I don't think the return was good enough for Rafael Devers.
Nick Face.
I think Jordan Hicks will be okay. I've never been a huge fan of his. I think that if he's a 7th inning guy, it adds a little bit of depth to your bullpen. But if they're going to think about putting him in as a starter, I'm also much like with Nick, I'm done with that experiment. I don't want to go there. As for Kyle Harrison, I think you could get another Richard Fitz or Hunter Dobbins kind of opportunity here with Harrison, but it's a matter of development. And I've talked about this in the past couple of shows that we've done. And what scares the crap out of me with this organization is the development side of these players and these prospects coming up. I don't have faith and trust that these guys are going to come up and they're going to be okay. I'm still nervous as ever to see what Marcelo Meyer is going to do. I'm hopeful that Roman Anthony is going to tell Pete Fatke to go put his launch angle BS up his you-know-what and let him play and let him hit. And then we also have to worry now about Christian Campbell. I don't mean to be a worrywart. I don't like that mentality. I don't like that approach. But the problem here is that you have too many problems that are organizational wise. You need to work on your development of players to make sure mentally they're ready to play in Boston, that they're going to make these routine plays happen. The routine, simple plays aren't happening, or the developmental side of our pitchers. We can't trust right now. The trust is not there. So that needs to be regained somehow in some way.
One more thing on Kyle Harrison. Even if he does reach his full potential, I don't think his upside is good enough for Rafael Devers. If he hits his full potential, he's a 3 or 4 guy, a 5 guy. We need that 2 guy right behind Garrett Crochet. We know Garrett Crochet is a stud. We know Garrett Crochet is going to go out there every 5 days and compete to the best of his ability. We need the 2 guy. If we had the 2 guy, the Red Sox might have 50 wins. We don't have that 2 guy. We're depending on Walker Buehler, who's pitching tonight. We're depending on rookie Hunter Dobbins, who might have had one of his worst starts of his career with 5 walks. We're depending on the wrong guys. We need a bona fide number 2. Walker Buehler was not that guy, and Kyle Harrison is not going to be that guy, even if he lives up to even if he has the best possible outcome of his career. He's not going to be a 2 guy behind Garrett Crochet.
Well, they were too cheap. They were too cheap this offseason. Henry only wanted to give Buehler or a 1-year deal. You could have had Max Fried or Fried, whatever his name is. You could have had him. But no, we have to be cheap. We have to be the Red Sox. You could have had who's the guy that just went down with Tommy John? He was with the Orioles. We liked him. Right hand.
Corbin Burns.
Corbin Burns. Yep, we could have had him. If we had him, we'd be in a world of trouble too right now with that. But at least we would have felt better about having a guy who's a quality starting pitcher in baseball.
Well, I think, to both your points, if you subtract Walker Buehler from this team and insert Max Fried, you're in first place.
Of course you are.
Period. So to Nick Diamond's point, you need to have look. If you look back in recent history of the 4 championships that the Red Sox have, and I've said this 1,000 times if I've said it once, when the Red Sox won, the key common denominators to those winning teams were they had co-aces at the front of that rotation. They had a reliable 8th inning guy, a very dominant closer, a strong 3 and 4 hitter, and a great center fielder in every one of those championship seasons. And that you're just not having that now. To Nick Diamond's point, Walker Buehler has been nothing short of a complete disaster. I mean, the guy has an ERA almost 6. If he was coming up through our system, he would have been DFA'd or he would have been sent back down to the minors. You can't do that now because you're kind of stuck with this guy, but he's not going to be returning. I want to switch gears just a touch bit. There was something going on too with Jon Heyman. He had said that he thought the Devers trade was an A+ for Boston. I don't know if you guys saw this. He said shedding approximately $30 million annually in salary and labeling Devers a defensive liability and starting clubhouse issues. The financial flexibility Boston gained is undeniable. Fans are right to be skeptical. Saving money means little unless the team reinvests it wisely. Was this an A+ move, or is Heyman just prematurely declaring victory?
I'd rather have them ate money and got better return. So it's not an A+ move. It might have been, in Heyman's eyes, you just shed out $250 million. It's really hard to do in one trade. I mean, if you look around the league, how many times does it happen in Major League history that you shed $250 million in one deal? I'm trying to think. It's probably only happened with the Red Sox, and it's been twice. Like in 2012, they shed Crawford and Beckett and Agon.
Adrian Gonzalez and all that.
Yeah. So
the Nick Punto trade.
Yeah. But still, Rafael Devers is at the height of his prime. He's on pace for 35, 40 home runs again this season. Like, I don't think it's an A+ trade because I think you could have gotten more value for him. Yeah.
Nick Face.
I don't know if Jim and I, or even with Nick, if we've ever talked about my takes on Jon Heyman before. Have you ever heard? We ever gone back and forth on those things yet?
Not too much yet.
I absolutely despise, out of every media player that's out there in Major League Baseball, Jon Heyman. Yeah. That guy is nothing but a mouthpiece to the owners. I don't give two craps on what that man has to say.
He's a buffoon. He's a mouthpiece to Scott Boras. That's Scott what Boras. He is.
100% that's there. I don't take anything that guy says. I don't take anything. Nothing. I don't care what he has to say. I ignore him. He's blocked me. I've blocked him. Goodbye, Jon Heyman.
Last piece that I wanted to talk about before we sign off for today. Obviously winning just one game in the Giants contest there on this weekend. Romy Gonzalez kind of underscored some of the defensive struggles that we've seen with this team throughout the season. And basically he alone created that 9-5 deficit. The Red Sox have costly defensive mistakes for the last few years, and it doesn't seem to be improving. Are these defensive lapses just incidents, or do we have really a bigger, deeper issue with the coaching and player development? And you can even cite the fact that Roman Anthony, even being a kid, can't field a ground ball in his debut. But, these guys we've all been playing baseball since we've been 6. What's the problem?
So, as somebody who was not a Chaim Bloom guy, I always blamed it on him and his philosophies. I remember going back to him playing Christian Arroyo in right field. He used to play guys out of position, going back to just acquiring Kyle Schwarber when he's on the IL and then shoving him at first base, putting Christian Arroyo in the outfield, putting any random guy. But this goes back to even further than that. Blake Swihart played left field and tore up his whole career. We're just putting guys in bad positions they can't succeed. So I think it's a whole organizational problem. It wasn't just the Chaim Bloom thing. I wasn't a big Chaim Bloom guy, but I thought it was his fault. But when I really deep dove into it, it's been going on for a long, long time in this organization. So I don't know where I want to pinpoint it, whose fault it is. It's probably everybody's fault at this point. Roman Anthony's the number one prospect in baseball, and he can't field a routine ground ball on his major league debut. It could be a nerves thing, but it probably isn't. Like that's the thing. You go down to a knee and you held him to a single, and it's fine. So I want to say it's a organizational thing, but I don't know where the root of the problem is, who you got to fire, where you got to change the problem, because it's everywhere. It's the entire organization. It's not the major league level. It's not the AAA level. It's as low as rookie ball.
Nick Face.
Yeah, as we talked about on a couple of our past shows, a lot of it has to do with the fundamentals. This organization, for whatever reason it is, lacks them. Whether it's fielding balls properly, getting under the ball in the outfield and making sure there's two hands and we're squeezing the glove to make sure that ball stays in the glove. Getting down on a knee, as Nick said, to make sure the ball doesn't get by you. Whether it's losing the ball in the sky. This happens to this team. How many outs there are in an inning. They're all mental mistakes. I'm so grateful that when I played ball, my high school coach is extraordinary. I mean, he constantly was a teacher of the little things. Do the little things right. You hustle. You make sure you know what's going on. Know the play ahead of time. In a way, you have to slow the game down. You have to trust yourself, but you also have to be smart with knowing, okay, there's one out. The ball's hitting me. I'm playing third base. There's a runner on first base. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to knock it down. I'm going to try to go to second first, and then hopefully the second baseman is able to get the ball to go over to first. This is baseball like IQ. It's these things that you learn when you're a kid should transition and translate to the big stage, and it's not. So I look at it as a mental side of things, mental coach. Back when we had the championship teams, we had Bob Tewksbury was our mental coach coordinator. I remember he stepped away from Nesson. He was a great analyst and broadcaster, but he went to work with the team to work on that one-on-one, getting these guys ready to play. I think Boston is one of the biggest pressure cookers there are for playing with a lot of hype. Us fans, we're ruthless. If there's a mistake, we are going to rip that guy's head off. No doubt, no question about it. It's just how we are. We expect good things. We expect the best out of you. And for whatever reason, these players are coming up without any of these expectations, and they are failing right at our eyes. And it is hurting the entire organization. So we've got to find out and figure out how these things are going to change to get better.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think they need a complete overhaul. You guys are in agreement with me, I believe, but they need a complete overhaul from top to bottom. They have to understand that what they're doing isn't working, because if it was, you wouldn't see what you're seeing. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And it's just clearly not happening that way. Finishing off tonight, Nick and I spoke a little bit yesterday about the upcoming series. Nick Diamond, obviously you weren't on, but what's your thoughts? What are your takes, and what are you expecting in this series against the Anaheim Angels?
I think we lose tonight. I don't have much trust in Buehler after coming off a couple bad starts. Garrett Crochet, I think he's dominant. I think he's a great pitcher, and I'm glad he's on our team. I'll take game 2, and then game 3 with Dick Fitz and Kikuchi. I know the Red Sox have been better against left-handed pitchers this year. I don't know how Fitz has been doing in AAA since he's been sent down. I'll take the loss just because we're facing the lefty. But we've hit Kikuchi in the past, so I think that game 3 is a toss-up. I think game 1 we lose tonight, and game 2, I think Crochet will shove it against the Angels tomorrow. So I think tomorrow's an automatic win. Tonight will be I don't think it's an auto loss, but I think we have the disadvantage tonight with Buehler just not coming off, not looking good lately. But yeah, I'll take 1 out of 3 with a chance to win 2 out of 3.
Nick, any other thoughts from yesterday on the series?
The biggest thing that I will add into the realm here is that if Walker Buehler does explode like he did last start against the Mariners, you're going to see either a phantom IL stint or a DFA. You heard it here first. I still think tonight is a loss. Tomorrow is a win with Crochet. And then Wednesday is the toss-up to figure out what happens. It's a matter of is Romy Gonzalez and Rob Refsnyder going to lead the way because it's a lefty? Will they anchor that lineup to give them enough runs to win and to hold the fort down for Fitz? I can't. I'm going to probably say the Red Sox only win 1 out of 3 here, the Tuesday game.
Yeah, I'm really strong on the Crochet star. I think we can win that as long as he is Garrett Crochet, right? I mean, if he pitches the way he can and has done all season, I think we'll have enough offense to be able to carry that game. As far as tonight, which starts just now, it's all going to be on Walker Buehler. If he has a fantastic start, I think they have a shot of taking 2 out of 3. If he has another stinker, I don't know how you can give him another start, frankly, after this. No. But with that being said, we're going to call it for tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on Red Sox Digest. Please go ahead and subscribe to our free newsletter on redsoxdigest.com. And we will see you again on Wednesday night, where we'll recap some of the games against the Anaheim Angels and also talk about Yoshida starting his rehab assignment. Can't wait for him to be back and ground out the second. Nick, have a good night and go Red Sox.
Have a good night, all.